So blatantly obvious, I'm not Pastor Barry. So I'm going to disappoint by saying, first off the top, I do not have any interesting main stories to tell, unfortunately. I don't have the gas or the patience to drive that far up to sit there for a week and come up with something. I, however, decided to wear black jeans and a flannel sweatshirt because the last time I wore this, Pastor Barry looked at me and he said, "Oh, that looks like Maine semi-formal." So I figured it would fit. It would be a nice happy medium. Although him and I do share a few things in common. We both grew up in New England. We're both fans of now really mediocre football teams. One's great. Only the Patriots, honestly, but don't tell him that. And like I said, we both grew up in New England. He grew up with moose and trees. I grew up with Dunkin' Donuts, trains, and tractor-trailer trucks. So kind of the same thing. So the title for today's sermon that I wrote is Becoming Something Before It's Too Late. Can everyone say that with me? Becoming something before it's too late. So for context, a couple months ago, I had a meeting with Pastor Barry, and he asked me if I could write a sermon to be ready in time for when he'd most likely be going on vacation in April. And I agreed. So I spent a little bit of that time brainstorming, but like most young adults, I put it off in the back burner figuring, oh, April's a long time away. I don't have to worry about it. Until two weeks ago, when he texted me and said, "Hey, would it be possible for you to have this sermon ready for the 25th when I will not be here?" And in a panicked moment, I said, "Sure." So I began to write down and brainstorm more and more ideas. I spent the last 2 weeks writing, scrapping, at least 5 or 6 different messages. All that to say, preaching's not going to be my thing. Yeah. And I have a brand new found respect for Pastor Barry and his Herculean task of coming up with something new every single week. I don't know how he does it. I don't want to know how he does it. I'm just going to live with it. So I decided on today's title because I've been in school for the last year learning electrical. And in that process, I've also had to work every single day, so it's been fun. But I wanted to pass on some, I guess, wisdom, you could say, and experience that I've had within the last year. And I'm hoping that'll resonate with everyone, but especially any young adults who might be trying to, go through that path of life of, all right, where do I go? What do I do? There's 1,000 options in front of me. I don't know what I'm going to do. So as we all know, we have to eventually grow up and become adults. We have to surrender or give up that inner child in us that wants to just live in the moment, have fun, not have any responsibilities or obligations to anything. Who wants to wake up, play with Legos, maybe play a couple video games, run around outside in the mud, come inside, track mud prints everywhere, and then go to bed every night. But the reality of the world is that it's not all sunshine, rainbows, and unicorns, as my father would so lovingly put it. And the reality of the world is that once you hit adult range, you are required, in a sense, to get out into the world and do something and become a productive member of society. But as I've stated, there's a child inside all of us that doesn't want to do that. Quite frankly, I don't want to do that half the time anyway. That's especially true for my generation, unfortunately, today, in which we are able to put off maturing and growing up due to easier access to instant gratification, easier but more degrading and less honorable ways is how I'll put it, of making money. And in some cases, parents or people around them that just enable them and allow them to just kind of exist without any sort of responsibility. And those are just a few examples. There's obviously more factors to it. The problem with putting up growth and maturity is that, sure, in the moment you can escape the penalty of not having your life figured out, but the penalty of that only accrues as time goes on. Once you hit, mid-30s and you maybe don't have your life together at that point, you're kind of thinking like, oh, great, now I got to figure this out. I have, a lot of responsibilities that I just been neglecting, and it's going to be a lot harder to take care of all that. Anyone who's had to get their life together in their 30s, 40s, or 50s definitely knows that struggle, or have had to restart it in some instances. Once you hit adulthood, different windows of opportunities start to close. To name a few, your ability to get a job, maintain yourself in that, grow and learn with it, starts to shrink, because as you get older, you kind of become more set in your ways and less flexible. And the ability to have and raise children while you're still young, and can actually keep up with them. And those are just a few to name. We have to make a sacrifice whether we want to or not. Simple as that. And we have two choices in life: either stay as overgrown children, or do we take the time and effort and mature into functional adults? And some people, especially my age, look at that and go, well, why would I want to grow up and do any of that? Why would I want to go out, work, just to be tired all day, come home and not be able to do anything? And, it's stressful. It's absolutely stressful. I 100% get that. But the reason is you don't want to be an incapable, overgrown infant who doesn't know how to do anything. And you miss a lot of opportunities to become something, because especially in your early 20s, you were presented a lot of opportunities to do a lot of different things. And a lot of people will go, no, that's too much effort. I don't feel like taking 6 months to learn that. Oh, I don't want to, that's going to take time out of my, my morning coffee. I don't want to do that. All the excuses that we can come up with. But the sacrifice is inevitable, because you either take the opportunity or you miss it. That's reality of how it is. The world doesn't just stay paused forever for you. So you have to make some sort of sacrifice. But that doesn't also apply to just working either. It can apply to spending time with loved ones. It can apply to learning new hobbies or activities that may be more physically demanding or more challenging. Such as, for me, I learn martial arts and I do rock climbing. But I know as I get older, that's going to be a lot harder to do. But since I've learned some basics of it now, I can at least grow and adapt as I age, which is beautiful. But there is a limit until it becomes either too late or just too difficult to really learn and be able to do certain things without causing major injury or disability to yourself. I know there's probably a couple of people who are thinking, wow, this is down. I was hoping for something nice and happy from a young, youthful person, or some variation of that. And while I definitely agree, and while I was writing this, I went, wow, do I really want to be that dark? But that's the reality of the world. It's, like I said, not all sunshine, rainbows, and unicorns. There's definitely some dark elements to it. But there's some positivity or a silver lining in that dark reality. And the positivity is that there are many different things you can become and different ways to do it and different time frames in which you can achieve them. You have to take time and learn and mold yourself into that thing you were called to be and be able to accomplish what you want in life. Some may take longer than others. Some may be easier than others or harder than others. It's all different. So you have to go through a training period, in a sense, or an apprenticeship, as I've been so lovingly told as it's called for electrical. And if you do that, you can achieve your goal. But part of that apprenticeship or that training period is it's very narrow and constricting. You have to pretty much eat, sleep, breathe, whatever it is you're learning. Whether it's you're going to school to become a nurse, you're in the military going through basic training, you're in the cop in the academy, whatever it is. You have to take that time and live, breathe, whatever it is you're doing. And in that time, you learn a lot about yourself, what you're capable of, what you do and do not function with, how you handle stress, deadlines, and whatever life decides to throw at you. And college, trade schools, as well as I've said, the academy or basic training are fantastic examples of that training period you can go through, especially at a young age. Once you complete that training and molding period, then the world opens up to you. Once you establish yourself, got a footing, and a nice solid foundation, then the world's your oyster at that point, basically. Once you graduate school, you can get out into the field of whatever you study and start progressing up that ladder. And in that time, maybe you have less overall responsibility of, you don't have to go to work, school, balance a whole bunch of things all at once. You can just work, go home, and do what you need to do then, which is nice. To give maybe an example, you go to school or you just learn how to be a carpenter or a stonemason or some sort of construction worker. And then you just become more than just a construction worker. Maybe you get to a point where you decide, I want to branch out, have my own company. Well, then you can employ other people and train them, and then they can either stay working for you or they can branch off and go do their own thing too. It's, like I said, the world opens up to you. You can help enrich other people. Maybe you live in a small town and you're the town's stonemason, or you're the town's plumber. Everyone calls you. You kind of become a pillar of the community. Everyone rants and raves about how great your work is and how dedicated you are and how awesome you are at it. So you just become more than just a simple builder. You become very important in the community you work for, and you can pass all that along to other people. Or maybe instead you say, maybe I don't want to branch out and make my own company. Maybe I do want to stay working for someone so I have more freed up time for other things. And then you decide, maybe I can do some volunteer work, maybe take some extra positions in church or some recovery groups and stuff like that, like I'm a part of. Or, to give another good example, you go into the Army, graduate basic training, and say serve about 48 years. And then you come home and decide, I got home, I'm lucky I got it good. There are other people out there who don't, so I'm going to spend my time, learn how to become maybe a social worker, a therapist, and go out and help other veterans who may not be as fortunate when they come back. And it's a butterfly effect in a way. Once you go down that path, it starts with a choice to become something, and then from there, 1,001 things can happen. That change in training can happen at any age, not just being young. You could be in your 50s and decide, I don't want to do X anymore. I'm going to go do Y. It's possible. It's just much more difficult because you have more responsibilities to balance at that point, most likely. But it's very far from impossible. I've spent the last, almost a year and a half. Wow, it's been a while. The last year and a half in different recovery groups for drugs and alcohol, and I've met tons of people who didn't stop until they were in their 50s, and now all of a sudden they've made something of themselves in their 50s or 60s. It's very possible. It's just very difficult. And, me saying that do it when you're young or young as possible is not meant to discourage anyone or, knock anyone off who maybe isn't, where they want to be or where they think they should be. Rather, it just serves as a starting point for my talk. But then there's a final piece of that puzzle. And once you've established yourself and are a functional adult, you then can go back and, in a sense, reclaim that inner child that you had to put on the back burner while you went out and matured and did all that training. That doesn't mean you just throw away all the responsibility that you have and go, all right, I've worked my whole life. All of a sudden now I'm retired. I'm almost retired. I'm just going to say, quit my job now, and I'm just going to go run around all day. No, that doesn't mean that at all. Instead, what it means is to take time that you do have and enjoy the little moments of life. Anyone who has been around or has their own young kids will agree that, sure, you may do a lot of things. Maybe you work 12 hours a day. You have to come home, cook dinner, clean up whatever mess they possibly made. But when your daughter or your little sister, if you are an older brother, don't have kids in that sense, if your daughter wants to do a tea party, you're dropping everything. You're doing a tea party. My uncle, my mom's brother, anyone who's met him knows exactly how he is. But he has a 5-year-old daughter, and he'll drop anything. And he's big, tough Mr. Firefighter. But as soon as she goes, hey, Daddy, can we do something? Boom, no problem. Whatever it is, he drops it and he does it. And it's funny to watch. Or on the alternative spectrum, anyone who maybe has sons or boys, and they want to go outside and, say, play Pirates or something on the play set you have in the backyard to throw the ball back and forth. You drop whatever you're doing and you do it. And you just learn to embrace the little moments in life while you can. It's important to reintegrate some parts of your youth and how you were as a young child so that you're not going through life bitter and unhappy, angry that you're working all the time and that there's no point to anything. No, you got to take time, find a few things that you enjoy, do some hobbies. Spending time around small children who say really funny things it's fun. Last week I got called old by a 5-year-old. I'm 24. But gotta have fun and let loose once in a while, but not. There's a fine line you have to walk between having fun and being responsible and just going crazy. So I have 3 takeaways for today. Number 1, in order to be mature, you must be willing to leave behind childish ways of being and take on responsibilities. Number 2, learn to enjoy the little things in life and take time to enjoy it. And number 3, you get to pick your sacrifices, but that doesn't mean you don't get to not make one.